Shrek the Third came out in the year 2007, includes the likes of Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz and Antonio Banderas reprising their roles from the Shrek 2 movie that came before this one, obviously. This movie takes place from the aftermath of the second movie like we just mentioned, as Prince Charming, the son of the fairy godmother, is out for revenge as he wants to kill Shrek for killing his mother. A revenge plot. Although Charming also wants to be king, as well as a little side plot that he always wants to be, because in Shrek 2 that were his aim, to become king of far, far away. As this movie starts off with the death of King Harold, played by John Cleese, and so Shrek and Fiona have to take over his duties and the throne while he gets better as he is ill. However, when they're doing the job, they realise it's not for them and that they're not going to embark on the throne when Harold sadly passes away, in which he does near in the first act of the movie, and Shrek asks him on his deathbed, who is the next heir after me, because he really doesn't want to be king, as he doesn't feel that he's that royal type of person, which we can clearly see before he took on the duties. And he said Arthur, and then suddenly died as he realised that if he doesn't find Arthur, Shrek will actually be the next in line. What I liked about this movie in particular then is the amazing first act of this movie, as this was incredible. This was better than probably any first act of any movie you're probably going to see, as it builds up to something better in 2 and 3, in the 2 and 3rd acts of this movie. However, it fails to hit the potential it makes in just Act 1 alone. And people will argue and say, oh, shut up you dick or whatever. I actually think Act 1 rivals anything. You watch something, I think that Act 1 is like, fuck me, I'm interested, because you've got the Prince Charming thing of him potentially getting revenge on Shrek. Obviously it was never going to happen, but you've got that potential, that threat already caused there. You've also got in Shrek and Fiona, them having to take over the royalty issues because Harold has just died. Another thing there, Harold's death is one of the biggest deaths I've ever seen in an animation movie, and was incredible, with Wings as Live and Let Die. Honestly, loved it. And this just went onto another tier, onto another tier, onto another tier, and you thought, is it actually going to replicate what it did in 1 and 2? And then we finally finished this act with Fiona's pregnancy, and I thought, Jesus, you watch this for the first time, you'd have been like, that first act, yep, as it met for Shrek 1 and 2, yeah. Let's move on in this review then, because that isn't how it goes. However, before we get on to the good stuff, the negatives of this movie, because it is a shit movie, let's admit, there's a few positives I do want to mention first, like the actors and actresses in this movie, as they were not the fault in this movie, if you can imagine that. As you had the likes of Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, which were perfect again in this movie, bouncing off each other really well and helped further their stories as Shrek and Donkey. However, you also had the likes of Cameron Diaz reprising her role as Fiona, as she brought a stronger version of Fiona, I thought, maybe. It's in my opinion, as they did something good in this movie. Yeah, they actually did. In which they grouped all these princesses and all these people which are seen as, I don't know, sort of softer in Disney movies and save me by the male characters, but at the end they helped group together and try to fight off all these people, and it was great to try and see, but then they didn't really fulfill their role in finishing the job off, really, in which is a real shame, because it would have been great to see them actually rescue Shrek themselves, not fucking Artie, in which says everything about this movie. Also, you had the other characters likes of Antonio Banderas, John Cleese, Julie Andrews, Rupert Everett, and a few guest appearances as well from the likes of Justin Timberlake, Seth Rogen and John Krasinski were also great in this movie. Little parts here and there. Even the likes of Antonio Banderas didn't really get used much in this movie, just a few cheeky comments. And to be fair, really should he have been in this movie? I don't think he should have. He just felt like Shrek's bitch through most of it. Same with Donkey, to be fair, but, you know, each to their own. But saying that, should this movie have been made? We'll get into that later on. But yeah, these actors and actresses were clearly not to blame, so let's get on to the negatives, the fun part. However, in this movie review, not everything smelt of roses, and in this movie, sorry, not everything smelt of roses, as the first act was fantastic, like we mentioned, but the second and third acts was like, come on lads, what the fuck have you done here? It looks like, you know when you're getting a test paper, and you've done all the first, you spent so much time on that first page, them 2 pages, then you go, you know what, I'm gonna have a rest, and then you realise, oh shit, I've had a longer rest, and half the paper's not even filled in, then you've gone, rushed and tried to fill in a load of answers at the last minute. That's what it felt like. And instead, they started fucking around with certain mythical characters, in which shouldn't even been in here, like some Merlin, in which people might argue, yeah, he helped bring something good, but I don't think so. I think Merlin should have been used in a different Shrek movie, as this just felt like they crammed him in there. Same with like Captain Hook and a load of these other villains from famous franchises and famous movies. However, I just felt this didn't really work, and they use these villains instead of actually having like guards in the first 2 movies, in which I thought would have been better, because then they tried to use, oh, the stepsisters from Cinderella, she's going to be a big part in this, and all these others coming in and going. It's just sort of like, you've tried to cram as many super villains in there as possible, hence why this hasn't worked. Furthermore, on that point I've just made of being a big bundle of mess and all the villains and stuff, it also felt overcrowded, like I said, with the Spider-Man 3 thing, and you had different plot lines going on. You had Fiona's pregnancy, okay. The royalty of Far Far Away being changed hands and looking for a new heir, which is Archie. And then you also had the revenge plot. That's too many things going on. As, like I said, with the pregnancy, you might think, oh, that was just a little scene. No, it weren't, because Shrek was constantly thinking about being a father, and he didn't know how to cope with that. So that felt like one of the main things in there for me, is Shrek didn't really want to be a dad, and then when it came to the finale with Prince Charming and Shrek, it just felt more like a, oh, they're gonna slay Prince Charming and then have a family, which, guess what, fuckface, it happened. So it was like, there's too many plots going on, and for a movie like Shrek, the idea is to keep it simple, but make it very funny and very watchable, and this did not excite. The final thing that's the negative, in my opinion, the really big thing that sticks out what I did not like in this movie, was clearly it shouldn't have been made. It was the biggest money grab I've ever seen. It was like, okay, the first movie's done good, the second movie's done incredible, and then they did everything that every franchise does. They go for that third movie and it just fucks up everything. Look at Terminator. Did 1, did 2, absolutely amazing. Everyone was giving them so much hype going into that third movie, and then it was like, what the fuck is this? And it was because they carried it on without the likes of James Cameron in charge. Just fucked it all up. Hence, this can be said, as it felt that, yeah, they had the same casting, and probably, I don't know who directed this, don't really matter with animation directors and shit, but I just felt that the actors weren't the problem. None of this was a problem. It just was that the Shrek franchise had gone too far. And by the fourth movie, and by all the specials, people were just bored of it. And if they'd maybe, I thought about this the other day, and if maybe they'd done a Toy Story, and what I mean by Toy Story is they made the first 2 movies, and then left it about 10 years till they made another one. And that seemed to work, as Toy Story 3 was as good as the other 2. But then in between Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, I think they shortened the gap, so there was less new ideas, less new fresh ideas, and I'm not a big fan of Toy Story 4, as you can guess. And they did the same with Incredibles. They made one movie in like early thousands, then they came back in like 2017, I think it was, and made another one which was exactly like the first one. So to me, I think the plan for these big franchises is to leave it a few years, let people talk about how good those 2 movies were, so you could put an even bigger plan together to get that movie like those 2. Because if not, you're gonna strike gold and then fucking ruin the gold. And that's what's happened with the Shrek franchise over time. So to summarise, Shrek 3 is an entire movie. It was a steaming bag of shit. It really sucked dick, didn't it? And I know I've said a couple of positives about it, but that was just to make the movie feel better for you guys. As I'm not going to talk it up here, it was shit. Hence why I've rated this a 6.4 out of 10 and a bang average film at the least. It could have been lower, but I watched it recently and was like, it's not a 6.2 anymore, I'm going to put it up by 0.2. So if you agree or disagree with anything I've said in this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be alerted to all the new content this channel creates, and see you guys in the next one. Laters.